Hello and welcome to another SSCAIT report. Today I'll be your host, Chobo Swaggins, and we will be going over more recommended replays from the Discord, link for which you can find in the description below. We'll be looking at AI games and human versus AI games from SSCIT and the Schnell ladder. Now to start us off, we are here on Andromeda, Monster versus Purple Wave, and this was marketed as a very good game. So let's take a look. Monster spawning on the bottom right as the yellow Zerg, while Purple Wave spawning in the bottom left as the orange Protoss. Now, there have been a lot of discussions in the Discord about the potentiality of AI expanding to the island bases. Now, what's interesting about this island base is that there's a mineral that prevents the building of a hatchery, nexus, so whatever command center. This was usually added to maps because Terrans would get an unfair advantage because they can make a command center right here, float it over, and land it. This means that you need to have drop tech, whatever that means for you and your race, Zerg, Terran, or Protoss, before you can take these island bases. Now, from what I've seen, AI generally tend to ignore these bases. They don't attack them. They don't take them. They act as if they don't exist because I imagine it has not been a consideration up until now. Um, so I'm suspecting that we might see some island play for the first time here. So definitely looking forward to that. In the meantime, as to the actual build orders, we are going to cannon into Nexus PvZ. Very safe approach to PvZ. The SimCity perhaps not exactly what you would want. Normally you want the forge and the gateway in front of the pylons to help kind of wall and funnel. But it looks like we are going to be going up to 3 cannons now after the gateway. Purple Wave not entirely concerned about the SimCity. Monster going for an economic approach, 3 hatcheries, gas, very standard Zerg play for this map. So it's going to be interesting to see how play develops here. Is this another cannon? Yes, it does seem to be. It's going to be interesting to see if Purple Wave opts for the Master Goon strategy that we've seen Stardust use. If the Zerg is going to, yep, it looks like it's going to be 3 Hatch Hydralisks to start off. 3 Hatch Hydralisks can certainly pressure open 4 cannon formation like this. There is another pylon being added here. This is not a cannon. With 4 cannons so spread out, a bust with 3 Hatch Hydralisk is totally viable. However, it comes down to control. It will be interesting to see what Monster decides to do here. Looks like it's actually adding another hatchery. It's going to be going up to 4, 5, or 6 hatcheries. This is a more macro-oriented approach to modern CVP. And it's actually adding sunken colonies preemptively already. It sees that the core is spinning, maybe assumes that it's going to be Dragoon production, given that the core is spinning and there's no Stargate for air upgrades. So let's see how this develops. For now, both players quite content to just be sitting and resting here. I'm kind of suspicious about this robotics placement. This could definitely get taken out by Hydralisks. It doesn't get advantage from being surrounded by cannons, really. We do have a shuttle, so that is the first move. Okay, we do have now Hydralisks applying pressure at the front, but seeing the defense is in place, they decide to back up. More cannons being added, definitely filling out the defense here. The Robo is at the front. Is it there to soak up hits? I'm not sure. With this amount of cannons now, it becomes impractical to try to push it. However, trading against the Dragoons before they get massed is a decent idea. There is a Corsair now as well, actually. Let's see, that had to have been Rage upgrade, not +1 air, correct? Yeah, that was range. We do have Speed Shuttle now completed. No sign of a Reaver yet, even though we do have the robotics facility. The Reaver would be useful here against Hydralisks, absolutely so. Surprised that Zerg, it's gone up to the 6 hatcheries that we expected, but I'm surprised that it doesn't take 4th and 5th bases along with this. Maybe it doesn't feel that it's necessary. Looks like there is scouting of the other bases, so the Dragoon count is being brought down by the Hydralisks, although the Hydralisk count is falling as well. Excuse me. And yeah, the Dragoons should not be fighting outside of the protection of the cannon fire. There should be a Reaver probably out by now as well. And quite interesting to note that both Purple Wave and Monster floated quite a few minerals here. Maybe, is it possible that this replay got bugged? I'm not sure because there's no pro production. There is just army production for both sides. Army moving over here. Yeah, there is an expansion here. Army splitting, actually, interesting choice. This army is delaying the Dragoons. It looks like the Dragoons have all been tasked back to push the Dragoons back into their main base. Good macro from Monster to keep up with the Dragoon flood. And now is going to try to apply pressure, but there are still a lot of cannons here. Probes are being pulled. They do a nice job of walling off. Dragoons do come back. The next macro cycle is helpful in pushing back. In the meantime, Purple Wave expanding twice, actually, taking the economic advantage against Zerg here would be a major boon for its position. And actually has managed to push the Zerg all the way back to its natural defensive area, where I'm not so sure I like these Sunkens up here. They might extend the game a lot, but if your enemy is already knocking on the door here, you're already in a really bad position for this map as Zerg. So perhaps might have been better to place them down here, where it would be better. They would better buffer the army. Corsair being a little annoying, attacking the Overlords here. Hydralisks managing to control, and yes, the Reaver is out now, is going to be useful against this sunken position, but looks like it doesn't have the numbers that it wants to push in yet, and that's a good call because there are quite a number of Hydralisks back here. First Reaver shot comes out. I like the way that it is splitting its Hydralisks in anticipation of Scarabs. The Scarabs hitting the Sunken in a roundabout way there. These Sunkens are all actually getting kind of weak, but it was a good trade nonetheless for the Zerg player. The Zerg player did manage to expand as well, while the Protoss player, interestingly enough, no like cannons or any defenses here. Just a couple of Zerglings would be enough to ruin this economic advantage for the Protoss player, who is also taking the 5th base now at the 9 o'clock position. Now this push is getting cleaned up. The Reavers need to be saved. There's 3 of them now with only 1 shuttle, barely holding on to that position. The mass from Zerg is continuing. More hatcheries on the way now. Look at how many hatcheries are being produced. Scourge are now on the way as well. A lot of the hatcheries are here with Sunkens in front. Would have maybe liked to see a expansion hatchery here and here, and then that way you could sunk it on the high ground. There is two lurkers on the ramp though, which is a great move. It's you often see it in ZVT, but it can work in this situation as well. It could definitely scare away the AI. And noticeably heavy on Zerglings now, and I did hear the sound of an Overlord picking up a unit, and that prompted me to look at the island, and yes, indeed, we do see an island expansion here from Monster. Good choice here. Are those Overlords, are they... Oh, the Scourge are defending the Overlord as it comes up here to drop off. Is it going to be drones, or is it going to drop somewhere else? I'm interested to see what's inside this. We'll find out later, maybe. This stalemate is continuing. Now we have Templar in the mix as well. Storm is going to be useful, even though Monster does have great storm dodging technique. Yeah, you can't dodge those storms. Those blanket storms, you can't do it. That's a magic box storm right there, if I've ever seen one. And actually, yeah, it was a drone, and it was used to take this island expansion now at the 12 o'clock. So Zerg taking the requisite 60% of the map that it needs in order to stay ahead of Protoss, or at least keep up with the production. It looks like the Zerg is slowly working its way towards that. The Protoss, however, in the meantime, has taken just about every base on its side of the map. The only one that's missing is its own mineral only. Not that it especially needs it. 75 workers, close to the ideal number that you'll probably have. Maybe is the ideal number to have in this scenario. And now we're seeing fantastic macro. No one's floating any minerals. 192 supply for Purple Wave ahead of 107 for Monster. But how will Purple Wave address these island expansions? We do have a shuttle. We do have a Reaver. I mean, those things are things that it already doesn't use, but really weird pathing there on the Reaver and the Scarab there for those shots. Zergling's managing to take it down. I want to see what the upgrades are, what the upgrade difference is. Yeah, 3 attack for Protoss, 1 is on the way, and 2 armor is up. So that means that Zerglings take an extra hit from Zealots when they're going down. It is going to be a balanced interaction. It's not like one race is in favor, or like one person's position is better, but the +3 would be useful for a timing attack soon with Zealots. The Reaver is going to get pushed back. It looks like the DT useless with the presence of the Overlords, and Scourge and Mutalisks now running away from this Archon here, actually from multiple Archons now. Looks like they're going to try to hunt down. Yes, they do hunt down the shuttle and the Corsair. Very nicely done there. But now with Archons and High Templar in the mix, this is becoming a scary push once again. 186 supply against still floating around 110 is the Zerg player. Are we going to have a breakthrough here? Lurkers, nice addition there. all the Archons are now gone. I mean, Hydralisks are a perfect counter unit to Archons, so maybe not surprising there. But I'm surprised, where is that 180 supply that we're looking for? Oh, it's being pulled to the main base because of the pressure from the Mutalisks and the Scourge. This is why the push is not gaining momentum as it probably should with a maxed out Protoss. So much army is hidden back here, and I'm not... Can the Dragoons get out? Yeah, they should be able to get out here. It's just a little bit difficult for them, it seems like. They do glitch out a little bit. So now that the army is free to leave, it looks like they might be thinking about grouping up with this forward force here and applying pressure to the front of Zerg's base once again. Zerg, also taking those islands, as mentioned earlier, has static defense as well, so they're not just naked bases. Very nicely done. And is also now taking the 3 o'clock position, adding static defense there as well with the lurkers already in place. Very, very solid play from Monster here. Reaver... I mean, now the Protoss army is here in force, so it's going to be interesting to see what it can do with all these numbers. Normally what you don't want to have is more than like 4 or 5 Templar in PvZ, because there's no way that you're going to be microing, macroing, and storming adequately with more Templar than that, but for AI, that is not a concern. So a hypothetical maximum amount of storms has been extended for AI play. Reavers still being microed very nicely. They're trying to take out the static defense. One Sunken finally goes down. Archon continue to push in, and supplies, they're staying firm. I mean, with constant mineral expenditure, 180-ish supply against about 110-ish has been the theme. There is, however, pressure. It looks like it was a lurker drop, actually. Very nicely done. This is something that we don't often see in AI play. Zerg doing a lurker drop on the economy of the Protoss. Looks like it was handled well, though not many workers lost. 72 looks like it was lost probably around 3 or 4 workers there. The Reavers holding their own, but without AA. Oh, and the Scourge come in to take out the shuttle as well. So one Reaver does go down relatively for free. These Reavers might go down as well before they are able to fire too many shots, and that is the case. Purple Wave now on high on minerals, low on gas. Starting to mine out of its gases. Oh no, it looks like it's gotten glitched out here at its natural, or maybe it knew that it didn't have enough to apply pressure, but now it is moving out. Action really all over the place with Zerglings trying to apply pressure to the Protoss base. It should be noted that Zerg has been on the defensive this whole time, so even though they do control the majority of the map, they don't have all of their expansions yet, but that is possibly a good thing, because I think that means that Protoss might mine out soon, and that slowly but surely the supply count is climbing for Monster. Now up to 35, still 190 for Purple Wave, still close to the maximum. Looks like Purple Wave is trying to apply pressure to this 3 o'clock base, but Zerglings and Hydralisks are out of force. What are the upgrades here for the Zerg player? 3 armor is just on the way now. 3 armor for Protoss on the way. So, upgrade advantage for Protoss, but it doesn't seem to be capitalizing as much as you would expect in this situation. Looks like it's trying to take the middle base, which would shift the balance of bases a little bit more in favor of the Protoss going long term. If it can take this, but there is only 8 minerals in this middle base, even though there are 2 gases. 2 gases are the crucial factor for this base for Protoss. Still low on gas. Still trying to apply pressure here, but with so many sunken columns, it actually looks like Guardians coming up here. Yes, indeed. Guardians coming up as well. The Zealots will not be able to bust through this position. It's just action all over the place. Truly a very good game, as mentioned earlier. Mutalisks applying pressure to probes, running away from the Archons. And these bases are now starting to get mined out for the Protoss player. I mean, the Zerg bases are also pretty heavily mined out as well at this time. Main, long mined out. The Protoss just recently haven't taken its mineral only here. And now focused on defending this base, it seems like, and it's actually expanding in front of the Zerg base here. No, the Zerg should not allow that to happen at all. Now static defense being added to the ramp as well. But looking at supplies now, 98 supply for Purple Wave, and Monster is one that's at 142. Somehow, like, it shifted. There must have been some sort of gap in production, or an exchange that was particularly bad. I think it might be the addition of these Guardians that's really improving the Zerg's ability to control fights and engagements. And actually, no, it's down to 19 workers. Purple Wave. How did that happen? Is that from the Mutalisk harass alone? It looks like it is. The Mutalisks have been patrolling around here, taking out probes seemingly all over the place. With so few workers, Protoss can't maintain production off of its gateways. And quite frankly, doesn't have all that many minerals left to mine in the first place. That's why I was so desperate to take that middle expansion. Zerg, on the other hand, with the 2 island bases and the fresh expansion here, is going to have plenty of resources to continue this fight. And it seems like Protoss is just, yeah, so down to 8 workers now, 7 army. It seems like Purple Wave has fallen to Monster. The rapidly rising star of SSCIT and other ladders. Very, very nicely done here by Monster against Purple Wave. Purple Wave perhaps some pathing issues, some prioritization issues, like when it had a half of its army around here just to fight against a single or a couple of Mutalisks, but Monster proving that it is able to pull Purple Wave's attention away to different areas of the map, and as a result, basically just abuse, has superior tactics, let's put it that way. It's had superior tactics in this game. Defended well here at the front, managed to allay that pressure that was constantly knocking on his door while taking these island expansions and this expansion. If Purple Wave didn't allow the expansion to the top right, I think we would be looking at a different game here. But with all that being said, maxed out Monster is now going to finish off the game here, and very nicely done. Thank you for the share here. Moving on to the next game, we have another replay of Monster, where the author of the bot, Lion's Power, is telling us that he wants to show off his anti-Scourge micro. And we have Monster here at the top right as the orange Zerg, whereas on the bottom right we have Steamhammer, another top AI Zerg, at the bottom right as the purple Zerg. And the map is Empire of the Sun, I believe. Let's speed it up a little bit and see how this goes. ZVZ, it's a matchup that we haven't seen that often on this channel. A lot of times we're looking more at the non-mirror matchups, it seems, but in this case it looks like it's going to be overpooled for Steamhammer against what is likely the same from Monster. Overpool gas for both players. They're going to be most likely going into Zergling. Speed is going to be interesting to see when they go for the layer. Let's bring up that production tab now. Let's see where the research is at. Yep, we're getting the speed research for Monster faster, and it's going to be 1 hatch layer on top of that. 1 hatch layer for Steamhammer as well, but no speed, so most likely ahead in its layer timing. It should be, we should check that to see. Yeah, slightly ahead, and looks like Spire is already started for Steamhammer. We should be seeing a Spire coming up soon. Yes, it is indeed for Monster as well. It's going to be 1 hatch Muta against 1 hatch Muta. Although this, yeah, this is the Spire. 3 Sunkens for Steamhammer, none for Monster. So Monster definitely has the economic advantage. 14 workers to 9. Adequately assessing the situation, knowing that Steamhammer can't produce all that many Zerglings. It is going to be opting for a Spore Colony most likely, though. Maybe worried about the fact that it had the later Mutalisk timing, and numbers for Mutalisks are an advantage for Steamhammer. Steamhammer trying to run down these Mutalisks that are going to fall back. There is 1 Sunken Colony and 1 Spore Colony, it seems. Numbers still definitely an advantage for Steamhammer. Oh, and now Scourge are out on the map. This is looking like a good position for Steamhammer with the faster layer and the faster Spire. This Overlord, if it's taken down, could be annoying. It is taken down indeed. Monster not supply capped though. It does have a second hatchery. Do we have a second hatchery for Steamhammer? No, we do not. 2 hatcheries and still relatively equal eco. Steamhammer now on 10 workers versus the 9 of Monster, but with 2 hatcheries should be able to catch up. Now it's 9 workers for Steamhammer as well. Mirroring bills, this must be a hatchery. Yes, it is. Very similar approaches to the game, but just those slight differences attributing to a difference in position going forward. Now a Spore Colony as well here, protecting the second hatchery and the tag. Good position for Monster to be in with now with 10 workers against 9. The Muta's unsure of how to approach, realizing that there is anti-air defense and the similar Mutalisk count from Monster. So likely held in stasis here for a little bit, not sure how they're going to proceed. Yeah, similar economy, similar army counts. I mean, Steamhammer is ahead in army. It does have more Zerglings too as well, though. But I do think that there might be more Mutalisks for Monster. I'm seeing more consistent production here on the tab. It's going to be interesting to see how the engagements go forward. The Zerglings look like they're inching forward. They're eager to see what is going on here. Unfortunately, with a sunken Mutalisk and the Zerglings of his own, Monster would not feel any sort of pressure from these Zerglings. However, also an expansion is not in the cards for Monster during this time, something that Steamhammer may have considered. Lots of Scourge now out for Steamhammer. and we will get to see that highlight, that control of Mutalisks against Scourge soon, I believe. I'm surprised that the Mutalisks and Scourge are not fighting in concert here, that the Scourge are not up ahead. They may be just here in case the Mutalisks sneak out. Might be defensive Scourge here. But I would generally recommend continuing Mutalisk production. Greater Mutalisk numbers is the most concrete way to win engagements in ZVZ. The economy now definitely greater for Monster. That earlier second hatchery allowing it to produce more, and maybe the security of the static defense as well, allowing it to slow down Mutalisk production at certain points just to get more drones and overlords. And as a result, it's in a good position here. The Mutalisks and the Zerglings coming out to apply pressure. Now the Mutalisks are running in for a counterattack. They take down a couple of drones, take down a few more, and now the Mutalisks come back to defense. Scourge coming in, and let's see the Mutalisk control. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful anti-Scourge control. Not a single hit, I believe. That one Mutalisk still pulling the Scourge away, and a few more Zerglings get taken down. Mutalisk versus Mutalisk now in the air. This Mutalisk, I think, is being used to scout at this point. Look at these angles. It's going in like a circular angle. Oh, tightened it up just to get out. Nice control there against the Scourge. Will this one Mutalisk get picked off by the enemy Mutalisk? Almost. It does take a few volleys, but the Scourge are getting microed out again. And the Scourge are showing to be not a good investment here for Steamhammer. However, Steamhammer has been doing economic damage, even though Monster is still at double the workers now of Steamhammer and taking its natural expansion. The Mutalisks unable to engage, and the Mutalisks here on standby, blocking both the Zerglings and applying pressure. Situational pressure to these Mutalisks, making them scared to go in. Scourge again being out microed by the Mutalisk, and it's going to take it for a wild ride, it seems like. So yeah, very nice control against Scourge. That's what we came here to see, and that's what we see now. This might be revolutionary in ZVZ. Imagine if Scourge are just a dead unit. They don't apply to the matchup at all anymore. This is the kind of evolution that you probably would not see in human versus human play. So it could be a new age of meta for ZVZ in the AI world. Yep, controlling once again, very nicely done, and the army count now heavily in favor of Monster. Must have more Mutalisks. Let's look at the numbers. Yeah, 22 Mutalisks against 11, and that's a result of the investment from Steamhammer into all those Scourge that have not really done anything. And now Monster pulling the trigger, ready to start engaging. It seems like the Zerglings are going to go for a backstab, but there is a Sunken here, there is Zerglings here, and there is a Mutalisk here. Mutalisks are now running in to try to apply pressure, but the Mutalisks from Steamhammer actually doing the cleanup job here, but the numbers still so heavily in favor of Monster. You can't help but feel that this game is on its way out. 24 Mutalisks against 2 on the map now, and this should be more than enough to apply pressure, but there's barely any anti-air static defense, just one spore per base here. And I think it's only a matter of time until Monster presses the trigger all the way and manages to start applying damage to Steamhammer. 34 workers now to 11, clearly showing its strength here in this matchup. With relatively almost the same builds from both players, Monster pulled out ahead. Better decision making, better micro against Scourge, it seems. And interestingly enough, it's not producing any Scourge of its own. It's like it knows that it's an obsolete unit now for AI, so it's like, why would I get my own? And actually taking a third base now, looking to really solidify its position. As they say, when you're ahead, get more ahead instead of trying to go for the kill, but it looks like Monster might be able to do both, apply pressure and take a third base. Beautiful dodging of the Scourge there. And the pressure will arrive at the natural of Steamhammer. It looks like this base is going to go down. This Mutalisk number. I'm actually interested to see what the upgrades are like. Do we have any? Ooh, 2 air Carapace, it seems like, on the way for Orange, which is more than the 0 for Steamhammer. So upgrade advantage as well definitely contributed to some of the earlier successes, I believe, for Monster, the Zerg player. And now cleaning up these Zerglings as they try to pressure the third base, and you can't help but feel, but Steamhammer with 5 workers and 2 army is on its last leg. Let's speed it up a little bit. Let's see how this ends. Monster is going to need to close this out soonish. Yep, and that's all she wrote. That game is basically over. We can move on to the next. For the next, we have the return of our hero, Cinders, who has made numerous appearances in this broadcast. He is against Anonymous AI at the top right as the Orange Terran on Empire of the Sun yet again. Cinders, the teal Protoss, on the bottom left of the stage. So we've seen Cinders playing both Protoss versus Terran, Terran versus Protoss, mixing it up, and we have these two replays recommended to us as two great games between Cinders, our hero. It's going to be interesting to see if he manages to pull out a win here. It seemed like he was confident with the TVP in previous iterations against Stardust. In the previous broadcast that I did, handled it nicely with a good siege tank positioning. It's going to be interesting to see how it phases off against this anonymous AI. I'm not quite certain who is the person that submitted these replays, but if looking into it, it could be Crazio, because they are the bot author's suggestions, so maybe he was reviewing his own bot's play and found these games against Cinders. So let's just hypothetically say that this might be Crazio going up against Cinders for now. Crazio, of course, one of the top Terran AIs that we have. You should be familiar with their play. Cinders going for a 12 Nexus here. I think that this is a really good move. A lot of the Terran AIs, they do a more passive style play. They go for siege expand or something like that, or siege mode before expanding, or mines before expanding. But in this case, actually, Crazio taking a very greedy Rax FE themselves, no bunker even up on the way. Just blind successful build. I think this is 12 Nexus is probably still slightly advantaged over Rax FE, but it's not that big of a difference. It's definitely a much better option than going for a Nexus opener. It's very difficult to create the amount of units necessary to pressure a 12 Nexus off of one base opener. That being said, Cinders, not making a Zealot, going straight into Dragoon production off of one gateway. It seems perhaps having scouted the expansion from Crazio is now maybe thinking of taking a third base of their own. Now, come to think of it, that might be the play here. And yes, we do see a probe coming out now. It looks like it's going to maybe take the other natural. Yes, that would be the play here, looking to take the other natural at the other main base. Keep up this macro approach to the game. You always want to be one base ahead of Terran at the least in PvT, and actually taking the main here, probably the better choice. One factory is up, no upgrades, no army out yet for the anonymous AI, potentially Crazio, whereas the first Dragoons are out for Cinders. Range is spinning, and they will be able to apply pressure to this bunker and force repairs before siege mode is done, but actually just chasing down this SCV for now. I think that splitting the Dragoons might have been the more prudent approach here, because chasing down one of these AI SCVs is difficult, it seems. Excuse me, 1 second. Sorry, I had to cough. Anyway, barracks floating out now to add extra vision to the siege tank. I like this decision. This siege tank perhaps a little bit over-aggressive, a little bit too far forward. Trading 3 Dragoons for 1 siege tank at this juncture of the game would be a trade that a Protoss player could consider taking. 2-3 siege tanks out now is going to become a little bit more difficult to take that kind of a trade now. And I wouldn't be too eager about pushing if I was in Crazio's position. There's no supporting army, only 1 Vulture. The bunker is a decent place to be at. The turret is coming up there as well. Meanwhile, we do have additional gateways being placed early at the other base by Cinders. That's a great move in this context. Going up to 7 gateways now off of 3 bases. Looks like it is thinking about building that mass now, and preventing the Terran from taking the 3rd base might be the name of the game. Or perhaps recognizing the fact that Terran is likely adding factories at this time. You generally want to have about 1.5 to 2 times the amount of gateways that the opponent has factories. So against 3 factories, having 7 gateways should be more than enough. And this sneaky Vulture sneaks out. This is one of the scariest things about AI, in my opinion, is when they sneak out a single Vulture and they can just take down a mineral line. But in this case, they know that the Dragoons are there. The Vulture is not going to go in. Great mine coverage here, preventing any aggression from the Protoss with before Observer. And yeah, now we have Science Facility and double upgrades coming, so Terran looks like to be making a serious push off of 2 bases. Still very low on factories, unfortunately. I would like to see at least 2 or 3 more factories at this juncture. Does not have the gas to support it, but you can switch to Vulture production temporarily in order to afford those factories and be able to put them down so that you can anticipate the production increasing in the near future. 2 add-ons for 2 gas, probably the correct move though, and we are going up to 5 factories now in a bit of a split location. Terran's still on 3 base, has a defensive army here. Looks like it has speed, should have speed as well. And actually going double arm fat force. This is a relatively rare approach to PvT that you almost never see. This is like a really brawler-esque type approach, and maybe as a response to the fact that it knows that the Terran's on 2 bases. But I would still recommend some additional tech like Templar or Arbiter or Carrier, depending on the situation. Looks like the Terran is not decisive in terms of how it wants to push out. It does have the siege tank count requisite to push out, though, I believe, and we should be seeing a change into Zealot production soon now. With nearly 2 control groups of Dragoons, you definitely don't want more than 24 Dragoons generally. It's looking like 29 now, 30 actually, and with this heavy of a siege tank count, you would hope to see these numbers a little more in the Zealot department here. Should be going up to about 2 control groups, 3 control groups of Zealots to be able to run through the mines, and we do see some Zealots on the map now and more being added, 19 total now. But this is a decent push from Crazio. The supplies are pretty even. It's actually taking the weird third base here. That's an interesting choice. It's very close to Cinders, and Cinders being forced to leave some Dragoons back home because of the Vulture run-bys that we were mentioning earlier. This push is continuing. If it takes this high ground, it could be dangerous. With a Science Vessel on Goliath here now, the Observers are out. Is the push maybe a little bit fragmented, though? There's a lot of army here. The Siege Tanks and Vultures seem very spread out. There's actually a push coming in from this end at the same time. Cinders in a difficult position here. How's it going to engage? The Zealots are running past the army. They didn't really run into the siege tanks the way that you want. A lot of Dragoons going down actually, and I'm not sure, even if Cinders takes this engagement, I'm not sure that this is the way that they would have wanted to take that engagement. And look at the coverage of mines now and the positioning of siege tanks on the high grounds here. This base is not long for this world, and this base, I don't think Cinders is even aware of this base. So now it's officially 3 base Protoss against 3 base Terran, and Crazio with the monstrous push. Maybe a slight flub from Cinders in the way that they took that. The Zealots could have ran in more directly, but this base is not going to be productive for much longer for Cinders, and it's going to become 3 base versus 3 base, and that's a position you don't want to be in. Now, however, a flank coming in from the backside, from the other main base, because of the intelligently placed second set of gateways, is going to actually clean up this push, and maybe, no, this base did end up going down, unfortunately, for Cinders, but Crazio behind this has taken a 4th base, and has taken the supply lead as well. So many Dragoons have gone down trying to engage up this hill. D-Matrix being annoying and pestering. Unsiege as soon as the Zealots arrive. Cinders not being able to gather up his army, and is actually behind in both army and worker supply now as well. Zealots again running in on top of the siege tanks. D-Matrix doing its work though, and this is just incredible play from Crazio. Really nicely done. It's not that Cinders made all that many big mistakes. I still would have probably liked to see a faster Arbiter, Templar, or Carrier tech in this scenario. And it looks like Cinders may have found this base and has taken it down, but the army has been taken down in exchange as well, and now the natural for Cinders is falling. Half the supply of the Terran player. You have to feel that this game must be over. Our hero Cinders not able to continue the hope for humanity, and it looks like this might be a GG, as Cinders is on now only 1.5 mining bases effectively. Let's speed it up a bit and see how it goes. Beautiful building placement, by the way. This is probably close to the ideal that you would want to see on both sides. Really liking this. Cinders is trying to expand, and it has applied pressure again. Now it's trying to apply pressure to this base, the 3rd base for Terran. But now at this point, Terran, they didn't actually get the repairs off in time, but is already has already taken claim to the top left. And look at the minecart. Just look at the mini-map area. That's nutty coverage of mines. Terran is always going to be aware of where Protoss is going. And now Protoss, Cinders has almost won, or has won in these situations in the past. So maybe holding on out of sheer desperation, but no, that's it. As this push enters the natural base of Cinders' new main, Cinders calls it GG, and very well done by both players here. Crazio's push, just a little bit too much to handle there. Now we are on Icarus, and Cinders is spawning again at the 12 o'clock position as the red Protoss, while we have at the 9 o'clock position Crazio as the white Terran. Let's speed it up a little bit here, and looks like the continuation of the series, and most likely is Crazio. That's where I'm going to place my bets. It's going to be interesting to see how Cinders responds to this. I'm guessing that these were posted in the order that they were played, so I personally liked going 12 next on this map against Crazio as well. Just going for fast 3 bases, using macro to contain the Terran army. It was definitely my option, but Crazio probably has evolved since then, so we'll see. It's not going to be 12 Nexus this time. It is going to be a gateway first opening, and it looks like it's going to be a factory first opening for the AI as well, given that it is mining gas. Not quite sure about this factory placement though. Let's bring up the production tab. Generally want the factories to be closer to the ramps so that you can, defend better, rally better, so on and so forth. 3 pylons usually means 28 Nexus for the Protoss player in this case. So yeah, we're going up to 25, and actually it's going to be 2 Dragoon Nexus. Looks like it's going to be a 25 Nexus, maybe. Not sure if the pylon is absolutely necessary in that scenario. Could have been used to make an earlier robotics, second gateway, more Dragoons. But in the end, that Dragoon actually got hurt pretty badly. It's trying to slow down, and it's actually a 2-fact push from Crazio, something that I didn't recognize. So these Dragoons being injured is definitely not something that you want in this scenario. Still only on 2 gateways, haven't added any more, now just going to the 3rd, and this 2-fact push could be dangerous here. Let's see how it progresses. It looks like Crazio relying on siege mode to push back the Dragoons. Not sure if that's absolutely necessary. Yeah, at this stage of the game, you could likely just 1A, 2A, 3A to Dragoons, but now with 3 more coming in, this push is going to be more difficult now. I mean, there are almost the same amount of siege tanks and Dragoons at the same time. That's not a position you want to be in, but the Marines and Vulture count has been brought down a little bit. Looks like the engagement might happen now, or are the 2 armies just going to pass each other directly? Cinders with maybe a blunder here, but there is an observer, so it could apply pressure. At the same time, it is getting pressured at its front. What will Cinders' decision be? How will Crazio defend against this? Is Crazio going to put siege tanks on the high ground? No, well, we know that the barracks went down, and the natural is being taken down as well. We need to see a concerted defense here from Crazio. Bringing 2 siege tanks back, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. With good sieging, it could do some damage, though. More siege tanks going back now. The natural does get taken down, so now it's a 4 gateway, 1 base Protoss. And oh, Goon soup. Those Dragoons got sandwiched and taken out from the production and from the retreating army. Perhaps not recognizing the situation, moving out way too late here. And now a good siege up again from Crazio is going to continue applying pressure, but now the Dragoon production is great. There was a period of time when workers were being made from 2 Nexi, so there is a worker advantage as well. But 1 base Terran going up to 2 quicker than the Protoss, you have to feel that the Terran is an advantage here. Cinders, just again, that slight tactical error by bringing the Dragoons down here instead of blocking the push path may have definitely compromised the situation quite a bit. It's going to come down to how well the siege tanks push and how well the Dragoons control, but Crazio is doing a good job of taking measured steps into the enemy base. Maybe a little bit unsieged too much there for a little bit, but no, a lot of Dragoons still end up going down. 5 siege tanks on the low ground, R6 now, is going to be enough to keep this army contained. Are we going to see a shuttle to possibly move out? There is a fantastic ring of mines here, though, to see any shuttles moving out of the base. And Cinders is in a difficult position now. Definitely need a shuttle here to Zealot bomb the enemy. Pure Dragoons, even uphill, are not going to do it. And look at the losses there for Cinders. Cinders, unfortunately, I don't think is going to be able to bust this, and is now behind in workers as well. 37 supply. The shuttle finally out, but I can't help but feel that it's too little, too late, as Crazio continues its push into the main base of the Protoss player. Poor Cinders has, after successes last week against the strongest AI, seems to be struggling here against Crazio. And actually with these Zealots now, this is what we kind of wanted to see from Cinders earlier, these Zealots being able to take down the siege tanks by getting on top of them. There has never been that many supporting units like Vultures, and a lot of them have been hemorrhaged. But now there's 5 siege tanks with the next macro round. I'm interested to see what the production is like for Crazio. It seems like it's only 2 factories going up to 3 now. It has a starport, possibly thinking, ooh, ferried out a probe, by the way, to take this Nexus maybe, but now a Vulture to handle the shuttle perhaps, and actually harassing the probes. No reaction from Cinders on that. The drop does happen, but Goliaths are now out on the map going to help with the anti-air defenses. I'm surprised there's no turrets being added. That could be a good addition here. The SCV is possibly there just to repair. Oh, can't get to that tank to repair it though in time, but the Dragoons do go down anyway, and these raids have killed actually a lot of probes while Cinders has been doing this, and I think that Cinders must have given up at this point. They did take the Nexus, but I think this is a situation you want to be in. It might get scouted. It might have been seen by the Terran Vulture. I'm sorry, Wraith there as well. Now with mines on top of the gateway, that has to be GG. Cinders calls it. Valiant effort from Cinders against Crazio here, or what is likely to be Crazio, but slight miscalculation, slight overinvestment, and going for the base race effectively was a interesting choice. But moving on, we have Stardust again versus Monster here. This was recommended to us as an absurd game. That was what we were told. It's on Jade, and we have Stardust at the top left here as the teal Protoss, with Monster as the brown Zerg at the bottom left. So let's see what happens here. It's going to be an absurd game between these two players. As you guys may already know, Stardust is the premier AI of the current at the current moment, number one in numerous leagues leading up to the SSCAIT competition that is continuing this week. I'm going to try to find that for you later to show you guys what has been going on with SSCAIT. In the meantime, looks like Stardust is not going to be adding a gateway. Looks like it might be a 12 Nexus actually. No, it was just, interestingly enough, it was just a late gateway, which is interesting to me. Maybe tried to see what was up with the first probe, like if it maybe sees that it's a 12 hatch, it can go for 12 Nexus, instead opting to go for a gateway, which is definitely not standard for PvZ, but we have an in-main hatchery for Monster as well, which is totally non-standard as well, maybe a response to the two gateways. I would have still liked to see that hatchery maybe on the high ground just for future defensive potential. If it gets locked down being defensive here, I'm going to close. I don't know how I did that. If it gets put into a defensive position here on the low ground, it could be difficult to deal with high numbers of Dragoons, for example. For now, it is going to be 2 gateway gas, so I'm anticipating Zealot production. Meanwhile, anticipating Zergling production, of course, from Monster. Just 2 Zerglings out on the way now, and we're seeing the Cybernetics Core being added as well for the Protoss player. Is it going to be 1 base Dragoons? That's the question that I have right now. The Zealots used only in a defensive position, although I think they could have been effective here as an aggressive tactic. Could have forced some Sunkens, could have forced more Zerglings to be produced. Interesting choice not to be aggressive here with a 2 gateway opener. I'm quite unsure about that. Meanwhile, Monster going for a Hydralisk Den as the layer is coming up. That speaks to me of a Lurker opening, which would be quite effective against pure Dragoons with no robotics. This is looking like 4 gateway Dragoon is going to again be the call sign here for Stardust, and with low ground Sunkens, just 2 of them, it could be dangerous, but it's all going to depend on how many Zerglings are made. The 3rd Sunken is a good move here. How early the Lurkers are going to be in, because we don't see Lurker upgrade yet, it seems like, even though the Hydralisks and the layer was made quite early, we still don't see the Lurker upgraded, and now we finally see it. We do see, actually, interestingly enough, Overlord Speed coming in first, possibly worried about the potential of Dark Templar pressure. These 3 Sunkens are actually doing quite well to hold. I'm surprised that the Protoss player didn't opt to try to run past at this point. It should know that the Zerg can't have that much army. Going for 2 hatcheries off 1 base with 3 Sunks, the economy has to be limited here. So perhaps now with this amount of Hydralisk, though, it would be less favorable, and with another Sunken coming up, the Dragoons should not be able to engage. But they are, like, it's definitely better than the incurring losses as it has been doing so far. It is applying pressure, it is keeping the Zerg quote-unquote scared, but I don't think those were good exchanges that it was taking there. Now up to 6 gateways off of 1 base. Stardust is becoming even more Stardust, and it looks like it's taking its Nexus as well as adding cannons intelligently. A Lurker drop would be devastating here in this exchange. Lurkers are out on the map as well, and it looks like they might be itching to push up the ramp to take that 3rd base soon. It's going to be interesting to see whether Stardust is aware of that situation. You could actually hear Lurkers burrowing before you can see them. So I'm interested to see, I think I asked about this in previous discussions, and I think that AI don't listen to the game. in that sense. I know that they can see invisible units quite well, but I'm not sure if they can take audio cues like hearing a lurker burrow, therefore indicating that there is a lurker. And, oh, it is going to be lurker drop, it seems like, because the only way that those zerglings could have been made out is if they were dropped out. With 5 seconds here, that might be just enough to hold, especially with the Hydralisk support. 2 Overlords here. I didn't catch exactly what was in it. Oh, it's going to be lurker. Ooh, it's a defensive drop. I like this. This is good. Taking the 3rd base here. Well, technically second base for the Zerg player here. Stardust is going to have no idea about this, no scouting information about that. Should maybe suspect due to the fact that it's seen that Zerglings are appearing out of nowhere, which means that it must be either a hidden base or drop, but it's going to be interesting to see if Stardust ever does scout that. But with the 2 lurkers already there on the ramp, going to be difficult to apply pressure. Observatory is up though, and by the way, beautiful SimCity. So 2 bases already for Stardust, so I would say that Stardust is in an advantage position here. It's going to come down to how it plays out with the tech advantage that Monster has with the lurkers and the drop tech. Is there going to play a factor here? With 2 cannons on each mineral line, you can't help but feel that 2 lurkers may not be enough. 2 lurkers can take down 1 cannon if they're out of the range of the second. Could be annoying, but it can't deny both mineral lines at this time. And looks like Stardust is now starting to scout with an observer, trying to put together what exactly is going on. 2 lurkers definitely not going to be enough to hold this ramp against this army with an observer present. Sunken colonies coming up close to the hatchery here, and actually quite a number of sunkens here, and pressure again being attempted by Stardust. And even though that these sunkens are on the low ground, the Dragoon pressure is being funneled through these ramps, so as a result it's actually managing to hold. But now with 2 lurkers, and the Dragoon count is going to be climbing here. It's going to be interesting how it engages. Nice attempt to run by with 1 Dragoon to distract. 3 Sunkens. I don't think it's going to be enough to hold this. Emergency Sunkens now being placed. I don't think that's going to work out. This base does go down, but that does open the door for Monster to potentially take its natural base that it so desperately needs against a 2 base Protoss that is sitting on now 8 gate. And looks like to be adding more. That's a Citadel actually, and that's a 9th gateway now. Pure Dragoon production. Really going to be strong, but this is a large number of Hydralisks now, and it's going to be able to take its natural, I think, at this point. With the Hydralisk count as what it is, it should be able to hold against these Dragoons, and now it has the high ground. So, but actually falling back, I'm not sure about this decision. Maybe too scared, wants to use the Sunkens for defense. Yeah, I think it should have taken that fight, to be quite honest with you. Even if it will stay alive here, holding onto that high ground was more important, I think, to being able to take that natural. I'm actually kind of surprised that during this time Stardust hasn't expanded more. We do have Zerglings that have been dropped out, and they are patrolling or burrowed in the various expansion locations. So this is a great move from Monster, but being nearly mined out itself is I'm not sure that should have been priority. It should have been priority to defend the expansion. And we do have another expansion with 2 more lurkers coming up, but this didn't work last time. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, the observers are going to catch it again, it seems like, and the army was already shuffling out, potentially ready to deny this base. And more drops being made. It's drones actually being transferred over. This is something I don't think I've seen. Drone drop being used to transfer. And actually, interestingly enough, not all the drones are being transferred. Maybe keeping some safe just in case. And the Dragoons, I mean, now they're a number that they could probably take down these Sunkens, but the Hydralisks and Zerglings behind are what's going to make the difference in that kind of engagement here. Looks like it is thinking about it. It's definitely not trying to take out that base, which I think is a mistake. I think it should have been, just siphoning off like 12 Dragoons here and going to take out this base should be the move. And quite frankly, expanding should be the move as well. With cannons are being added here, but the the Zergling unburrowed, killed the probe, killed the cannon, and the expansion has been denied. And I mean, if Stardust can't expand either, if it can't figure out how to deal with this burrowed Zergling behavior, we have a game on our hands. I mean, we already have an absurd game on our hands. It's actually going for another expansion here. Maybe this will prompt the Dragoons. Yes, it looks like it might. No, where's the drone doing? Where's the drone going? Maybe taking the other main? Oh my god, this Zergling is so annoying! Took out another probe. I mean, we're gonna watch this interaction now, because this is, I think this is gonna happen a couple more times. Look at this. Cannon, same place. Probe goes down. Cannon goes down. Zergling's gonna burrow. Oh my god, that That's so annoying. I do this in human versus human play, and it works against, like, you know, newer players. It's always funny to do to them, the Burrow Zergling play. They think you're a hacker because they can't expand, but that is too much. That is annoying. What will Stardust ever figure out a way to take an expansion here? It seems like it really needs to. This could be a major exploit. And actually, Mutalisk's now out. The Mutas that Monster used so well against Purple Wave in the first game we saw today on Andromeda. The Mutalisk's now out and are going to be applying economic pressure to Stardust. Yeah, look at that. I can see the worker count decreasing. More workers going down. The Mutas are making Stardust lose a lot of probes and being only on one base. It looks like it's thinking about expanding again, but no, it can't because of the Zergling that's still there. When will these Zerglings be taken care of? Seems like never. The Pylon actually goes down here at the expansion that I was thinking about taking earlier. And yeah, this is just wild. The sheer hold from Monster, the tragic inability to deal with the burrowed Zerglings from Stardust, and I mean, Monster's now on 2 bases defended by lurkers. I mean, if this army tasked either one of these bases, it would be game over for Monster. But it's not like Stardust's position is not improving over time. It seems like the supply count is going down, the worker count is definitely going down. 51 workers now on 2 bases for Monster against the 18-20, okay, of Stardust, and the Mutalisks are the ones that are doing all the damage here. Another Zergling is this Zergling should take down this probe again, I think. Maybe unable to unburrow because the probe is directly on top of it, but it's clear that the probe is not understanding the situation. Oh, now I think it's because of the presence of the observer. Oh my goodness, this is you hate to see it. You hate to see it. And yeah, I guess unless you're a Monster fan or the bot author, then you're cackling maniacally in your cave or your villain alcove. Looks like a pressure attempt is here. The heard a canceling of a hatchery potentially, but with 2 bases mining against the next to 0 from Stardust with only 8 probes, you can't help but feel that this is just a time bomb ticking now for Monster, who has a supply lead. I mean, large part of that supply lead is the 45 worker advantage that it has, but it's also managing to expand behind this. And is Monster going to, from behind, take down the most powerful AI? Is there going to be a changing of the tides? Not sure about these drones moving out first. That might not be the move. Zerglings coming in from the back do seem to scare it a bit, though. And the Hydralisk, I mean, there is quite a number of army here when it moves out. It should be able to take this high ground again. I really want to see it hold this high ground position instead of losing its drone and expansion here. But it looks like Stardust has bigger problems at home now that it's nearly mined out and down to 8 workers. It really needs an expansion, but it would take a long time for it to get there. 29 minerals only in the bank. Trying to apply pressure once again. Monster not quite deciding how to take this engagement. This is a decent spot to do it, but not the best. Being forced back into its main base again, maybe. No, the Mutalisk still running in. This number of Dragoons is no joke, though. Yes, the Dragoons take the ramp one more time. Observers are here to help with the lurkers, but there's still plenty of army being saved here from Monster, and with this number of Sunkens, I don't think that even this number of Dragoons can push down. The Hydras are going down now at a rapid pace. Is Stardust, I'm sorry, going to finally be able to bust down this front door? It feels like it doesn't have many other options. It's not mining anymore. 89 minerals. Meanwhile, Monster's economy is healthy, going up to actually 4 bases now that are actively mining, and it all just went wrong for Stardust because of that cutesy Zergling burrow trickery. That's difficult. Ah, man. And yeah, I think that this is over. I mean, no more mining, no more production for Stardust. It's slowly going to hemorrhage army. Even the Sunkens once in a while getting a few hits on those Dragoons. And this stalemate is not going to favor Stardust. I mean, is Stardust long distance mining? No, it's just the Observer scouting everywhere. It has given up on the concept of having an economy. And it's just a matter of time now before Monster builds up the number of army necessary to take down all of these Dragoons, even going to be surrounding from 2 sides, so from the bottom and from the other approach. A lot of drones like being made and going down, though. Interesting. Okay, and finally we have the engagement. And oh, geez, yeah, that's a screenshot for the video, I think. Goon Soup may be the working title for now. Um, and now this massive wave of Zerg, of just anti-Protoss, Zergling, Hydra, and a lone Mutalisk is going to be enough to take down the remains of Stardust here at the top. And that's all. That's all she wrote. Good game, well played from Monster. I think we're gonna call the cast at that point. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I am Chobo Swaggins, aka Jealous from Team Liquid. Come talk to us at the SSCAIT Discord and the Snail Discord. I'll be putting links to both in the description below. If you're interested in StarCraft AI, you want to play against them, definitely look into Snail. If you want to talk more about the bots and about bot creation and talk about the tournaments that are going on, like the SSCAIT, which Nightcat discussed at length in the previous broadcast, definitely hop into the SSCAIT Discord. And yeah, I hope you all stay healthy, safe. I hope that you have a wonderful new year. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Take care.